Righto. Morning guys, thanks for attending. My background for the last 15 years has been pest, weed and pesticide management across now 3 different states for different local and state governments. What does that mean? I hope I bring a wealth of experience to you guys and get you up to speed with the current regulations, the actions required, the training for what you need to get access for more poisons in Queensland. Now I'm a commercial baiting operator, which means that is an associated risk that I take as an operator to take the 1080 service off councils or governments across to me as an operator. Now, Sally and both of them mentioned risk assessments. 1080 as a word, as a conversation, can strike many pros and cons. But the one thing we do know is the 1080 that we have in our landscape, if used well and done well and used properly, is a great tool for us as land managers, as operators of the council, property managers, etc., etc. Now with 1080 comes a lot of requirements and directions of use and understanding the label of the product. So in the past, the Queensland Government have been really supportive of handing the training and the initiative and the training to officers along with the 1080 concentrate across the councils. And they would then facilitate that service, and still do, to landholders across Queensland. But in amongst that, as of the end of this year, there'll be no Queensland Government solution given to local governments in Queensland. So that means for programs to continue, you have to go source the concentrate from 2 main suppliers in Australia, which is PAX National and Animal Control Technologies Australia. Now they have the solution, apparently solution, they're the manufactured baits. So from all levels of landholders, land managers, you can access that according to the right training and the right competencies. So I'll just use a bit of a diagram on here. I know Murray will talk about it later on. But for those who like diagrams, yeah. I do. I do. It makes a bit of sense. Okay, acronym, pretty straightforward. Local government, there'll be manufactured baits. Yes. S7, dangerous poison, 1080. CBO, commercial baiting operator. So who here is a landholder that's got issues with dogs or pigs? Hands up. Okay. Reason for today, you want to have access to more chemicals? Do you want to know the training? Do you want to know the framework? What's the vibe? What do you need to know?
All the above.
All the above? Okay. See a couple of council guys here. Thanks for coming guys from the Gold Coast. Information shared. And obviously Sally from Gympie. So they're going to sit in that space, council. Now, general approval will still be needed with no training competencies from land managers within the shires of Queensland. They needed to provide that evidence to say yes, they're above board as a landholder, they're going to participate in a government program. So it ticks that box. That's also the risk assessment. Who are you in that landscape? Where are you from? Neighbour notifications, etc., etc. Manufactured baits, obviously, are a really important part of the equation because we all understand the fresh meat scenario when we're talking about baiting for foxes and wild dogs. But to be a reactive and proactive land manager, you can get access to manufactured baits. Now this is locked obviously for a reason, because it's got poison in it. That's 1080 concentrate. The manufactured baits I'm about to talk about are in here. This is a product called DK9. It's a manufactured sausage. So that is what they call a manufactured bait. And you can get access to that and store it legally on your property in Queensland. So you can tick that box as being a good land manager. S7 retailer, I'm also an S7 retailer. So the concentrate, you need to go to S7 retailer to buy that poison. Now the CBO, similar competencies, but allows this situation for me to buy chemical. It also allows me to assist in putting out manufactured baits. And if you're a landholder in a shire that for some reason wants to engage my services, you then ring me up. I need to make sure you got the right training. I then can provide you with the concentrate or with the manufactured baits. Now, with the new products, both being Pax and Acta, obviously there's a label requirement. Now that makes sense because every product we use on the farm, it's generally got directions or labels to use. We've got to follow those directions. Now, for the Pax product, that's a solution, it's dyed. It's got to be dyed a colour because it's not like a bottle of water. So the safety concerns is it's got to be dyed. And most importantly with that is when it comes to the use of the poison, it's now only 0.2 of a mil into 125 gram to 250 gram piece of meat for wild dogs or foxes. Now 0.2 of a mil, that's water, don't be alarmed. That's it, 0.2 of a mil. So for a lethal dose for a wild dog or a feral fox, 0.2 and 0.1 of a mil associated with. Now also, signage. So the new regulation requires a different change in signage, and I determine that as a must. Not a should possibly do it, it's a must. You must put your signs out. Now that also alarms other people there's an issue with possible predators. On every corner post, on the property, and every entrance to your property, and every gateway facing a road. Pretty straightforward. I make them in Corfleet, I've got about 4,000 of them, and I've got metal ones as well. That's a legal requirement, you must do that. Okay. Through, who's heard of the CPEs before? Canid Pest Ejectors. Who's seen them in operation? Okay, a lot of people have, right. So, with this competency here, sort of sitting in the middle.
Yeah.
So if you want access to, if I put 1080 concentrate, for a better word, and also PAP, that's low dose, but it's still a concentrate, if that makes sense. So that is a capsule, which this is only corn flour, but I'll show you the principle how this CPE works. You have that with PAP or 1080. So in essence, the device, and great idea, great concept, of how it was initially thought out, was called an M44. So you'll see how it works, but in essence, American 44 caliber capsule, as soon as a coyote would put their mouth over the bait, it literally take the back of their head off. Now that wasn't very palatable for the Australian government. So they changed it to a CPE, a Canid Pest Ejector. It makes sense, we're targeting foxes and dogs. So you can picture ground level is the table. This is obviously probably a 12mm tube, peg on top with the collar. It's got a locking ring, you'll see why. That gets recessed into the ground, so it's about an inch above, okay? So you bang that in, and then you've got to set the ejector, okay? So the injector is pretty much, it's a self-plunger, it's a firing pin, so it's just on a collar, and that's set. So think about if you're a property owner or even who want access to the concentrate, you go through the new competencies, you buy the device, I see Peter from Get Trapped here's got the devices here, the actual CPEs. It means nothing if you haven't got the training, because you can't buy the capsules. So you've got a lovely device that's doing nothing. This is corn flour. So imagine it's 1080, treat it like a loaded weapon, so don't do this. When there's 1080 inside there, obviously you face that away, just in case it does the fire. You screw that on. Now, this would normally have a piece of meat on that, dehydrated, like a small bite-sized piece of meat, and either electrical cabled on, zip tied, fine bit of wire, so that meat stays on. The concept being that the dog or fox puts its mouth over the top, wants that piece of meat, pulls that up and gets the injection.
What's a good lure, Vince? What do you use?
Good lure, I have tried many, but in essence I find it can't be palatable to ants. Now you're probably thinking I'm joking, but I use felt. It's come out from the WA guys in the Pilbara, good colleagues over there, I took them all the time. They use felt, and they wrap the felt impregnated with a smell. But they use different colour felt to what they impregnated the smell with. So blue, red, mauve. It's okay, that blue one is chicken fat. Well, that's that, so I know what colour. Meat's hard, like meat now is floating, so it's yeah. So I need to lock the ring off. So that means that now that's live. Now this is going to go up, but so imagine that that's in the ground. You can picture all that. Dogs come along, and then.
What's the light? Probably not under the light.
Ready?
Yep.
You want to do it, Ivor? No, I'm a joke. So imagine the fox or dog is over the top of that. So the concentrate, I haven't got dandruff. The concentrates in that is targeted, it's very specific. It's a certain amount of pull to engage that. That's then a lethal dose in the mouth. So if you've done the right thing and done your training, you got your signs up, your baiting program can be 6 months. Start and finish. Notify your neighbours. Keep everything above board. You can do it and use those CPEs. So that's the PAP and the concentrate. So who's familiar with obviously the main control times of, say, wild dogs in Queensland? Who would be happy if I said what month would you start looking for dog activity?
Well, I'd say with these terrier and wild dogs, it seems to be a 12-month period. They're well, I'd say 8 months out of the 12.
I'm conscious of time too. I can talk underwater, so just pull me up. November, pups are out now. I've got awesome footage of 2 dogs taking meat baits 4 days ago. November, pups are dispersing, mobile, adolescents, none the wiser. You know, they're all excited to be out from mum and dad, but they start making mistakes. That's when you have well-presented meat baits, well-positioned CPEs, coordinated with your neighbours, talk to your neighbours, landscape approach. November, December, right through to April. Now, I think I can speak freely here. This time of year, they're thinking about food. From about, it'll start to change. March, April, May, June. April, May, they start thinking about something else. Birds and the bees. So baiting may not be as successful as that time of year. You want to get them to break the breeding cycle with the young dogs before they start getting to here. But that's where you start kicking in your trapping. Because they're looking for other friends, other partners, who's around. The whole trapping space, I'll do that this afternoon, that's when that can kick in.
I've always got best results about August.
Yep.
September, because like you got pups on the ground and pups in hollow logs, etc., and hungry bitches, etc. So like between whether it's the bitches or the dogs picking up the baits or the pups that's out and about, the early pups that's out and about, they're picking up baits.
Yeah.
You clean whole families up just one fell swoop.
Dogs in the cooler months are actually at their highest, but we don't see them. Because they're back in dens and logs being real secluse, bringing up the litter. So everyone drops their guard, generally. Oh, no dogs. Well, they're actually at the highest. Just haven't got out yet. You start seeing them, September, October, but a real big spike, November, December. Like you'll just see it straight up. So that's timing. Sally, does that help?
Yeah, that's usually when we offer our bait.
Yep, cool. But that's the coordinated council focus. In amongst that is all else that I spoke about. You can be reactive and planned 12 months of the year. There's no excuse you can't have access to all this stuff. It's there.
I guess, Clint, all I was going to say with the baiting period is that, you're notified 3 days prior to bait lay. You've got your 10 days where you have to get your baits down on the ground. So you have to do it within that period. I always have to notify again. You put your baits down, and if I'm talking about fresh meat baits, for instance,
Yep.
you only put them out for your 7 days, because after that they're not effective. They're sublethal. We don't want them out there. You must pick them up. Sorry, you really should pick them up after your 7 days. But if you've got dogs around still, it's okay to pick those up and dispose of them appropriately and replace the bait, so it's a good bait. So it's still effective bait there, and that can go on through your 6-month period.
Yeah. With that too, Alan.
Yeah, fresh liver baits. I've done a fair bit of work on this. You can dig them up in 4 days in this type of weather, and they're just all pulp.
Yeah, so
You'd have to be a real hungry dog to eat those bloody baits.
there's actually a bit of science.
Even the worms won't eat them.
There's a bit of science around how to actually make a good meat bait. Now, I've been to a lot. I've done probably 60 tonne of meat in my time. I've seen some shocking bits of meat brought by landholders to get injected. So the 3 big things that break down the 1080 in the bait is bacteria, fly activity / maggots, and believe it or not, temperature. So what's a big rotting carcass in the paddock do when it's hot?
Yep.
It's done. Cooler months, it'll hold a bit more. So when you make a meat bait, try it. It sounds a bit left field, but you can do it. No jagged edges. You see guys cutting up carcasses and they're hacking. All those exposed edges are perfect spots for blowflies to lay their maggots. Maggots, 2 or 3 days, big green blowflies in the meat, pretty much useless. So drying out a meat bait, it's a process before a process. If you present that well, the old saying, goods well presented are half sold. So if you can get that meat dry-ish, like a soft biltong, not dripping in a bag. I don't know how many guys I've seen turn up with, it's just like a stew. Bag of meat, but the bottom 2 inches is blood. I'd love to have guys turn up with a bag that's not full of blood and the meat is dry-ish. So when I or council inject the poison into the meat, you know that that's the best presentation you can get, and the bait's going to last a bit longer in the landscape.
Clint, what's your feel, Ivan, for burying the baits? The requirement says 8 to 10
Yep, so packs, the products say bury 8 to 9 centimetres. Now, dogs have got good noses, don't get me wrong, but I'm more about the birds. So I cover, because bury's still buried. Doesn't have to be buried, it can be buried under, like leaflet, a big bit of bark, like covered, if that makes sense. Birds will move baits, that's known. I don't know how many times I've seen it. Frustrating. So burying does help mitigate that risk. Also putting the baits out late. I don't like putting baits out too late. I've got to think about nighttime breeze and my smell, and normally on the quad bike, I've got the truck out the back. Stirs up the place. I want to put the baits out, ideally middle of the day, and get out.
In your experience with time baits, do you think that strings, wire, potentially, it's good at stopping the baits moving?
Totally.
Do you think the wild dogs?
I use fishing line.
Yeah.
50-pound fishing line. Cheap, easy, strong. But I put the 250 gram meat bait, pretty much knife straight through, fishing line through the end, and then when they pull it, just slices it anyway, because that fishing line's so strong, it just pulls out that meat straight away. I do put a bit of a soft pad sometimes in front, so when they pull, you can actually see their front feet. That last little pull off, you actually see their front feet. If you haven't got a camera on Yeah, tying in bearing's good. There's a lot of review at the moment of why we're bearing, because look at aerial baiting, it's not very